This is the Road Report with Steve Milton, presented by Hercules Tire.
This is Road Report on the Ticats Audio Network, and in Vancouver, I'm Steve Milton. Now you get to this point of the calendar with every game so big it's written in neon, you pull out all the stops. Some players who might normally take an extra precautionary week to recover from injury if it were earlier in the season suit up when they may not be quite 100%. And coaches and football operations staff devise ways to properly rest players for a road trip that is long in terms of distance traveled, but short in terms of the time frame to do it within, which is what the Ticats faced as they prepared for Friday night's showdown here against the BC Lions. Head coach Scott Milanovich talks to us a bit about that in a few moments. But first, as is always the case in Game Report the day before kickoff, we'll look at the roster changes for both teams. And harking back to the injury situation that I just mentioned, it's good news for the Ticats, who will be trying for their fourth straight win against yet another top-flight team. Defensive tackle Casey Sales, who has been enjoying perhaps his best season against the pass and the run, and these Lions are very good at both, returns after missing last week. Even when the Ticats were beaten 44-28 at home by BC in July, Sales had a sack and a couple of tackles, so his return is welcomed, and he's excited about it. He was abject as he watched last week's game in street clothes. Also returning from a one-game injury stint is Sam linebacker Jonathan Moxey, an integral part of the vastly improved Ticats secondary. With Nathan Rourke and number 2 Vernon Adams both prone to using their legs to extend plays and option halfbacks and linebackers, his experience, and notably his increased decisiveness, is important to have back in the lineup. There's also a secondary, if you'll excuse the pun, benefit to Moxey starting at Sam. It frees up Carthel Flowers-Lloyd, last week's starting Sam, to be fresh for special teams. Flowers-Lloyd is a high-level downfield tackler, and the Cats are now without their leading special teams tackler, Felix Grand-Gauthier, who's out for the remainder of the season. The other Ticat returnee may or may not be running back Greg Bell. He's listed as a starter, but he's also listed as a game day decision. James Butler, who replaced him last week and had a great second half, was also on the flight out here and is written into the depth chart as well. The Ticats would like Bell's breakaway speed in the offense, but are also satisfied they can be effective with Butler's blocking and power running. Remember, it was Butler's third down pass reception which kept the game-winning drive alive in last week's pivotal victory in Toronto. Those are the only changes for the Ticats other than emotional momentum as they try to win their fourth game in a row. A win here would bolster the Cats in both chasing down the Argos for third place in the East and in freezing BC at 7 wins, part of the mathematical equation for a still possible East-to-West crossover playoff berth for Hamilton. When these two teams last met in early July, it was the Ticats' 5th straight loss to open the season, and the Lions climbed to 4-1. And Vernon Adams was not only a quarterback, but in the most outstanding player conversation, usually right near the top. But since then, Nathan Rourke has returned and has been handed the reins. That's not a real comfortable situation from where I stand. He's the starter again Friday, but you sense there could be a short leash there as the Lions have lost 6 of their last 8 and desperately want to finish first in a year in which they're hosting the Grey Cup. Now, Rourke will be without the Lions' number 2 receiver and number 5 overall in the league in Alexander Hollins, who is on the 6-game injury list. He caught 6 passes for 116 yards in July at Tim Hortons Field, so that's a significant loss for the Lions and likely a positive for the Cats. But league leader Justin McInnes, who absolutely torched the Ticats in that game with 10 catches and 144 yards, he was basically unstoppable, will be front and center again on Friday night, as will running back William Stanback, the former Alouette who's had a career revival on the West Coast. He piled up 82 rushing yards and open space and coverage for McInnes and Hollins in that last game against the Cats. The Lions have another couple of key alterations to the lineup, with left guard Tyler Packer refortifying a central blocking group which allowed the Argos to make 6 sacks 2 weeks ago. But Canadian linebacker Bo Lacombo, who had 5 tackles in the July Ticat game, is out with injury, and former Ticat Deontay Evans, BC starting field side corner, is also on the 6-game injured list. That could prove very helpful to Bo Levi Mitchell if he can isolate a corner route receiver in a one-on-one deep to the wide side. That, of course, will be predicated upon the Ticats establishing the run, the shorter possession passes, and play-action believability. When these two teams last met, the Lions jumped out to a 24-1 lead after less than 20 minutes had elapsed. Adams threw for more than 300 yards in the first half alone. The Ticats had some good numbers of their own, but as Mitchell tossed for 3 touchdowns and 374 yards, but the offense and defense both got started far too late. The offense had ill-timed 2-and-outs, and penalties to the Ticats special teams and offensive units were highly punitive. It's a different-looking team right now, but the Lions still present them a big challenge. They're also well-rested. CFL teams this year are having success coming off a bye, as the Lions are. The Ticats, however, after beating Toronto Friday night and facing more than 6 hours on 2 buses and a plane on Thursday, decided to maximize player body rest this week by having 2 walkthrough practices and just 2 normal practices. Much of the preparation was in the film room and in those walkthrough sessions. Here's Milanovic explaining the theory. Now, for clarity, he was answering a question from me on Wednesday, so when he refers to tomorrow, he meant Thursday, when the Ticats did not have a walkthrough at Tim Hortons Field, which they normally do before hanging out on a plane. And I'll add that not having that walkthrough allowed that plane to depart for Vancouver more than an hour earlier than usual, buying them some time on the other end.
Yeah, we treated it like a 6-day week, which means we only practice twice. Tomorrow, I think our flight leaves at 11. All right. So the idea is if they're doing and being professionals like we've asked them to do, they will sleep in tomorrow and start trying to get their body clock changed a little bit to West Coast time. And then we won't get in late and it won't be a rush. So we'll get in, we'll have a 30-minute walkthrough or so tomorrow just to stay fresh. And then they can kind of lay around. And it's the hard thing about West Coast trips is when you get there late, a number of things, but when you get there late and it's a rush and you're tired and you're beat up from the travel and then you got to walk through or you had to walk through beforehand, it just becomes a really long day for the players. It's never going to be perfect, but any little edge, right? Any little edge we're hunting for. And ideally you go out 2 days early, but that wasn't possible this time. That's what we did last time. But yeah, we just try to give them any edge they can so they'll be ready to play.
Ready to play. That's the key here. The last 4 games, 3 of which they won, the Ticats have arrived ready to play, which too many times earlier in the year they did not. And combined with other factors such as limiting turnovers, the improved work of the defense, strong blocking along the line, and above all, Bo Levi Mitchell, that promptness has provided them with by far their best month of the season. There's still a month of games to go, and Milanovic has been repeating every single day. That month starts with 1 game and 1 game only, this one in Vancouver. Thanks for joining me and our traveling cameraman, Zach DiSabatino, here in Vancouver. We appreciate your time investment. And remember, on Friday, make sure to catch a full day of opinion and analysis on the Ticats audio network with all of our marquee names pitching in, highlighted by Luke Tasker and voice of the Ticats, RJ Broadhead, on the game call. And catch our post-game episode right here on Saturday morning.
This has been the Road Report with Steve Milton, presented by Hercules Tire. Go to ticats.ca for more in-depth coverage of the Tiger Cats at home and on the road.